Hello my friends.
Welcome to the Trade District of Stormwind.
Before we left for Alterac Valley, we decided to prepare well for the journey, and gathered information about all the new legendary cards.
In this video, we will share the results of testing new cards using our algorithm, which determines the potential lifespan of new mechanics. For each legendary card, we found similar cards from past expansions with similar effects.
In addition, we will test the overall ratings of players who took part in the voting on Hearthstone top decks and out of cards, as well as 5-star ratings from the most popular streamers Regis, Kilbin and Zeddy. It will be interesting.
The release of the new expansion will take place on December 7th. This will be the last opportunity to fix a difficult situation in this year's meta. It looks like the new expansion will bring a ton of new control archetypes to the game.
Now we will continue to test our algorithm for determining the potential lifespan of new mechanics. A few words about how it works. We have our own database on the popularity of cards in the meta, collected over the past 4 years. The algorithm analyzes the new cards for keywords and finds analogous cards from previous expansions, then determines the average life of these cards in the metagame as a percentage. In other words, our algorithm tries to identify mechanics that are able to remain relevant for a long time in the metagame. We are continuously improving our algorithm, but we are still far from the final testing stage.
Now let's get to a quick overview of each legendary card.
Wildheart Guff is one of the most unique and interesting cards of the expansion. For this reason, the algorithm couldn't find any analogs. Of course, using 20 mana crystals in one turn is nothing new for druids. But the ability to gain increased mana throughout the game is completely new. Guff received 3 stars from Regis Kilbin and 4 stars from Zeddy. Together, the community gave this card 84 points out of 100.
Wing Commander Mulvuric is the representative of cards that improve your board. Rokara is one of the best cards of this type. Mulvuric has an interesting effect. For every honorable kill of an enemy creature you summon a creature with Rush. We were unable to find any cards with a similar effect.
Wing Commander Eatman is yet another attempt to create the big Beast Hunter archetype. Beastmaster Leorax has failed in this regard, even with a more predictable effect. Despite this, the algorithm considers this card to be worthy of experimentation.
Najik Hexen can block enemy minions for a while, just like Maiev Shadowsong. But besides that, you can keep the creature permanently if you use the silence effect. But the best targets for stealing are creatures with charge and rush.
Belinda Stonehearth has a potential lifespan of only 38%. The card has no specific counterparts among the cards of previous expansions. The swap mechanic sometimes plays an important role in creating combo archetypes, but for this card to bring you any benefit, you must build a deck based on extremely expensive spells, which is too difficult for effective implementation.
Before we continue, we want to ask you for a favor. We have put a huge amount of effort into collecting a large amount of ratings and data on new cards. If you appreciate our efforts, please click the like button under this video.
This will help us understand that this type of content is still important. And second thing, please write your current rewards track level in the comments below this video. Last time we received a huge amount of useful data from you. This helped us determine the average progression speed of our subscribers. This time, we want to check if the current meta has had any impact on player progress. We think this could be a good way to estimate the approximate time spent by players in the game during the expansion phase. Thanks for your support. Let's continue.
Developers never get tired of creating cards with the possibility of endless resurrection. We have a large number of different variations of the same effect, but more often than not they turn out to be almost useless. The only good card with this mechanic is Rattlegore. This is perhaps one of the most powerful late-game creatures, but even such an imbalanced effect could not prevent the card from completely disappearing from the current meta.
Tamsin's Phylactery is also a board improvement card. At first glance, the effect looks unique, but in fact we already have several cards for the same cost that give all your creatures death rattle. For example, Vivid Spores and Soul of the Forest. The main advantage of Phylactery is the creative space, as you can choose an effect specifically for your strategy. This is one of the few cards in this expansion that I really like from a design point of view.
Seraphine Fleetrunner has stolen mechanics from the most famous villainous villain in Azeroth. Rafaam has proven that this effect can be beneficial for at least several expansion phases. In its prime period, Rafaam had 6% popularity in the standard meta.
Baron Glacier is the cousin of Sociologist Malicia. Both cards are capable of generating a board for fulfilling certain conditions during the game. This is an incredibly powerful mechanic that tends to find its niche in the metagame. Malicia looks much better, but that hasn't kept her from disappearing from the current meta.
Ivus the Forest Lord is the product of the fusion of Zilliax and Forbidden Ancient. Unfortunately, at the time of the merge, the lifesteal effect that made Zilliax such a special card was lost. In return, Ivus got the ability to increase his stats to adapt to the later stages of the game.
Captain Galvangar has a potential lifespan of 57%. In general, the card is an improved version of Grommash Hellscream, but only for a narrower use in certain strategies.
The condition for activating the effect of Lockholder the Ice Lord is identical to the Hooked Reaver. But if your hit points don't meet the condition, this card becomes dead weight in your hand. The card might work well for Quest Warlock, but it also has a chance to find a niche in other control archetypes.
Next on the list is Karia Felsoul. This card could be a useful tool for the new version of Big Demon Hunter. Of course this effect is not unique, Muck Morpher works the same way. The disadvantage of the card is its high cost. At the same time, the condition for activating the effect, which is limited to one type of minions, can become an advantage.
Drekthar is a kind of reincarnation of Dr. Boom. Hearthstone veterans should remember how broken this card was in the days of goblins versus gnomes. Of course, in the current meta, Dr. Boom would be useless rubbish. Jandis Bur-Uv is one example of a modern version of this card. But the current meta has proven that summoning 3 creatures for 5 mana no longer gives a significant advantage over other mechanics. Despite this, Drekthar has good combo potential, which is already being implemented in the wild format and is also able to find a place in some aggressive builds.
In our opinion, Rokara, the Valorous is the worst hero card. But our algorithm doesn't think so. Unexpectedly to us, the algorithm compared the effect of Rokara's weapon to Spawn of Shadows. There is some sense to this. You hit a creature, and the creature deals damage to the opponent's face. This way you and your opponent take the same amount of damage. But will this effect be enough in an aggressive metagame? We're not sure about that.
Beast Star Katavish lets you discover improved versions of secrets and cast them immediately. Thus, the card is a hybrid of Rinling's Rifle and Maligo's Aspect of Magic. Both of these cards have extremely long lifespans in standard format.
Magister Dawn Grasp and Jace Darkweaver are among the most populars that can generate effects. A significant drawback of the new card is the limitation of the number of spells that can be recast. Most often, you can only repeat one spell from the schools of Fire, Ice, Arcane and Shadow.
Sidon the Scarlet is similar to Speaker Ghidra for the Paladin class, but Paladins have a lot more synergy with spells that apply to creatures. The new card, at least, can turn into a nice additional tool in buff archetypes. Especially when you consider the fact that the current versions of these strategies are quite effective in the metagame.
The parents of Curtis Demon Render are Galakrand and Shadowy Paranduin. It was a very unusual union. At the same time, Curtis does not look as imbalanced as the parents, although it has great potential to become an auto-include tool for most Demon Hunter decks.
Vandar Stormpike is a type of tool that enhances your deck. The most famous and popular card of this type is Prince Keleseth. There is something in common between these cards. To activate the effect, you must build a deck according to a certain rule. Of course, Vandar is a more narrowly applicable card that only works for certain archetypes. In terms of the usefulness of the effect, this card can be compared to Frizz Kindleroost.
The current expansion has prepared a large number of slow archetypes for us, which in theory, is favorable for Vandar.
Bruicon of the Elements is a clone of Dr. Boom Mad Genius. The new Shaman hero card generates the smallest amount of effects but gets one of the strongest hero powers in the game. This card will only be useful in slow decks.
Zyrella, the Devout is a new version of Shutterwalk, only instead of battlecries you trigger death rattles. In general, death rattle cards are less efficient than battlecry cards. But as a bonus, you get a new version of the Bloodreaver Gul'dan hero power.
Dreadlich Tamsin generates a ton of value for just 6 mana. Get 5 armor, significantly improve your hero power, deal damage to the board, shuffle 3 cast when draw cards, and finally draw 3 cards from your deck. Some new cards generate too much value.
Vanish is back in the form of the Scabs hero card. For just 1 more mana, you will receive an additional 5 armor, 2 deadly stealth creatures, and improved hero power. The card is completely autonomous, and can be auto-included in any archetype. This is madness.
Last but not least on our list is Lightforged Cariel. Cariel is a hybrid of several mechanics. For just 7 mana, you deal damage to the opponent's board like Consecration. You get a weapon that resembles the effective Bulwark of Azeroth, and you also turn your hero power into a kind of Blessing of Kings. Blizzard, what are you thinking? This is another overpowered card that can find its place in any strategy.
Despite the fact that the new cards are quite powerful, and some of them are even overpowered, this does not guarantee their long-term use in the metagame. The strategies and mechanics in the game are becoming more powerful and supplanting each other. Here are the top 9 very strong cards that have completely or almost left the meta. This year the standard format is subject to very strange processes. It seems to us that the printing of more and more powerful cards does not contribute to the normalization of the situation. We shared our thoughts on this in our previous video. Don't miss it if you haven't seen it yet.
Finally, we can't wait to read your opinion on the new cards from Fractured in Alterac Valley.
The new mega bundles are the most generous in history, by far if you are a fan of mercenaries. Are you ready to make a purchase this time? Do the new cards deserve your money? Share your opinion in the comments, and also vote on our community tab.
We will be extremely grateful to you for liking and subscribing to the channel as well as for turning on all notifications using the bell icon. You can also join our squad of loyal patrons and help us create new videos.
Dear friends, from all of my robotic heart, thank you so much for any kind of support.
Alright, that's all for today. Thank you for being with us.
And special thanks to Chris for his invaluable help.
We will definitely meet in a new video. Good luck.
What? Who?